We believe it is our mission to protect and care for people and their environment every day. Pioneering future-focused cleaning and hygiene solutions. Trust the experts to select the best hygiene technology matching your site's challenges and your sustainability vision. Diversey, your global partner for responsible hygiene solutions.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the Diversey BW Hotelier GM Show series. This in the season 4. We're well underway, and this is the 4th week. Before I begin, my sincere thanks to Diversey, whose continued partnership has helped build this platform into one of India's most respected leadership conversations for hotel managers. This season also carries a very powerful overarching theme: India at the hospitality inflection point, redefining excellence across every stage segment. Today, I'm delighted to share this season 4 has opened with the strongest viewership in the history of the GM show. And I thank our ever-growing nationwide hospitality community for joining us week after week. Today's episode addresses a reality every urban hotel leader understands well: the 24/7 hotel, managing always-on guests in always-on cities, right? The key words are 24/7 hotel, managing always-on guests in always-on cities. That is hospitality in short. Guest expectations today do not follow check-in timings anymore. Hotels operate continuously across time zones, lifestyles, and digital touchpoints. Today, to moderate this important conversation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Shrikant Wakharkar, my good friend. He's the Area Vice President, Hyatt Hotels South Central, and he's also the General Manager for the Park Hyatt Hyderabad. Shrikant, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bhuvanesh. Good afternoon, everyone. It is really a privilege for me to be on this show for season 4. And Bhuvanesh, I'm eternally grateful to you that you made me a part of this show every single season. Today's topic, managing always-on guests in always-on cities, is very interesting and very relevant. I really like the theme for today's discussion, and I look forward to a very meaningful discussion with a galaxy of superstars from the hospitality field. Good evening, everyone, and warm welcome to each one of you.
Shrikant, the weight of your experience is gold for the industry. And if we can get you to share your experiences and your good thoughts, it'll be so valuable to the impressionable who are watching and to the ones who aspire for more. Thank you for being there. Now, before I go on to the next speakers, I want to say something about the theme, like Shrikant did mention. India's leading urban hotels today operate in cities that never pause, where guest expectations move seamlessly across business, leisure, dining, wellness, and digital engagement around the clock. This episode explores how general managers balance operational endurance, team energy, and guest experience in a truly 24/7 hospitality environment. Without much ado, let me bring in the stars of the show. One star you've already met. Let's get in the other stars. Gentlemen, get ready. The first general manager on the show today is Amardeep Singh. Moved from Rishikesh all the way to Hyderabad, the multi-property general manager for the Hyderabad Marriott Hotels and Convention Center. Welcome to the show, Amar.
Thank you, Bhuvanesh. Thank you so much. Hi, Shrikant. How are you? What a pleasure to be on the show once again.
All right. Next in is somebody who's coming for the first time on the show, Akshay Kavra. He's the general manager of the ITC Narmada and Welcome Hotel Ahmedabad. Welcome to the show, Akshay.
Thank you, Mr. Khanna. Excited to be part of the show today. Looking forward to an engaging conversation with everyone.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for being here and thank you for your time.
Likewise. Thank you.
Next one is somebody again who's here for the first time, Pranay Verdia, who's the area general manager, Marriott Sami Hotels. Welcome to the show, Pranay.
Thank you, Bhuvanesh, and thank you, Shrikant. It's great to be here, and I look forward to our interaction today. So
Thank you. Such a pleasure having you here, Pranay. Next one is Sharad Upadhyay. I think he's done every season with us. He out of Greater Noida. He heads the Crowne Plaza, Greater Noida. Welcome to the show, Sharad.
Mr. Khanna, thank you so much. Like you said, it's always a privilege and always a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you for the
Pleasure is
invitation.
ours, Sharad. Last but not the least, new boy on the block, new role, new city, new hotel, new brand. Jitin Kapoor, who's here for the first time. He's the general manager of the DoubleTree by Hilton, Goa, Panaji. Welcome to the show, Jitin.
A very good afternoon, Mr. Khanna. Thank you very much. I'm privileged to be part of this panel with the industry leaders. Looking forward to having a very productive session today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jitin. Those are kind words. With your permission, Shrikant, if I may get rolling, and why not get rolling with the first question directly pointed at you?
Okay.
All right, here I go. How must hotel leadership evolve when hospitality operations effectively run 24 hours a day without a pause? There has to be some break, some opportunity. You know, that there's a lot of similarity between what doctors do and what you guys do, or maybe policemen do.
Okay, so I would say that in a hotel that operates around the clock, leadership cannot remain confined to a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 6 schedule. General managers must be visible when the hotel needs them to be visible. During group check-ins, could be at 9 p.m. in the evening, significant VIP movement happening over weekends. Regular interactions with the night shift is also something which GMs should do at least once every fortnight. That sends a very powerful message that every team member matters, and those who are working unconventional shifts or hours are also valued and heard. The other thing I would like to dwell upon is operational agility. Decision making in hotels must be swift, must be responsive. Strong cross-functional teams are essential. They are the need of the hour now. There will be moments when housekeeping could perhaps assist at the bell desk with luggage delivery, or when F&B colleagues step in to support operational bottlenecks. Empowered managers who can take decisions without constantly escalating and seeking approvals, combined with short, focused briefings of maybe 5 to 10 minutes, not more, can create a very agile operation and environment that can respond instantly to guest needs, which are ever evolving. The third thing I would like to talk about is team well-being. Sustained performance, I would say, is only possible when the team well-being is taken seriously, especially over the last 5 years after the outbreak of the pandemic. Fair rostering and equitable shift rotations are critical to maintaining a very healthy morale in 24-hour environment. Equally important, I would say, is psychological safety, wherein we create an atmosphere where colleagues feel very comfortable expressing their views, even if they may be mistaken. Empathy must guide leadership decisions. Good leaders consciously put themselves in their team members' shoes before actually acting or taking decisions. The last one I would talk about is technology-enabled responsiveness. The way technology is rapidly progressing in today's day and age, it should enable faster and smarter decision-making in hotels. Real-time operational dashboards and predictive analytics can help leaders anticipate guest needs and operational pressures and demands before they kind of escalate. However, I still feel that, and I would like to stress upon this, that technology must enhance the human warmth rather than replace it. The true essence of hospitality always remains the personal connection between employees and guests. So in conclusion, I would say that hotels do not operate in shifts, they operate in continuity. In this environment, the most effective general managers will be those who remain visible, act with agility, lead with empathy, and leverage technology to elevate both guest experience and team performance. Yeah. Bhuvanesh, you're on mute.
Sorry. I said very well said. This sets up the context to the show so very well. You know, you guys for me are superstars. How you manage and juggle. And I also pity general managers who handle more than one hotel, right? Case in point being Shrikant, Pranay, Amar. It's a tough job, right? So it requires deft handling. Now, I'll do the most convenient thing that's expected of a a host who's done this many times over. I'll step back and hand over the baton to Shrikant to take this show to intermission. Shrikant, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Bhuvanesh, and thank you to BW Hotelier and Diversey for bringing this dialogue together. So let me start with Amardeep, who heads one of the largest convention hotels in the city of Hyderabad. So Amar, large convention hotels rarely slow down. How do you maintain service consistency when multiple guest journeys unfold simultaneously at the same time?
Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you, Mr. Khanna. I would like to start with saying that these large convention hotels, they have their own ecosystem. Yeah, they actually operate like a small city where you would have multiple guest journeys running simultaneously. For example, you would have events, you would have individual travelers, and actually the key consistency is coordination rather than simply increasing your efforts to run the hotel. Very important to balance event and transient business. And the first thing which comes to my mind is it's the planning of the resources in parallel layers. You have to ensure that the group movements do not overwhelm the individual travelers, and at the same time, a personalized experience has to be delivered. What would be expected by an individual traveler? One of the most important things which would make it a successful event slash successful day of operation is to have a very well-oiled command center where the departments would share their real-time update, whether it's arrivals, banquet timing, readiness by the housekeeping team, the maintenance and upkeep checks. It has to be a real time. It has to be a real time update. And needless to say, when you hear all about these things, then it's pretty obvious that the team coordination becomes very, very critical. So like a conductor, you need to orchestrate. Every department has to move in a rhythm, from front office to banquet to housekeeping. So actually the guest would never feel an operational complexity behind the scenes. And of course, yes, you would always have peak hours, you would always have bottlenecks. And as hoteliers, I think one of the things which we would have learned over the years is to anticipate these pressure points. And rather than having a very reactive approach, be very proactive in advance, position your resources in the right place when you know it's going to hit you bad. uh, Ultimately, service consistency in large convention hotels, that only can come through an orchestration and not by scaling it up. When hundreds of guests would move at once, the real skill is making complexity feel effortless. And needless to say, behind every seamless guest experience in a convention hotel, it is a perfectly synchronized team. I think that's how I would like to kind of sum it up when we talk about the speed and the efficiency and the consistency of a large convention hotel.
Thank you. I like the statement that it's more of a orchestrating like a conductor. So that's very interesting, and of course, very essential for a large format convention hotel. Let's move to Akshay. Akshay, you are leading a hotel which has actually changed the landscape of hospitality in the city of Ahmedabad over the last couple of years. Both your hotel and the Narendra Modi Stadium, I think, came around the same time or thereabouts.
Yes.
So great. So my question to you was, in fast-growing business cities such as yours, guest expectations extend far beyond rooms. How do you design operations that remain responsive round the clock?
Thank you, Mr. Wakharkar. I think the key words in what you have asked is operations round the clock. I think that is what is the most important key. And I remember when there was a group of us who were slowly growing in our careers and moving into more senior hospitality roles. Some of us were in the room, and there was someone, there was a senior manager who was like a role model for a lot of people. He made a statement. It was back then. I mean, not just now. This was like almost a decade back. Even then, he made a statement where he said that the real test of luxury, of a luxury hotel, isn't how it operates at noon, but how effortlessly it responds at 2 a.m. And that is the true test of a hotel's culture. This was, the gyan that was given to us by that gentleman at that point of time. And I think this is becoming only more and more relevant as we are, the way the hospitality industry is growing and the way the guest expectations are changing over the years. So, basis that, I feel that, the designing of operations for a 24/7 hotel, especially in a city like this, starts with a mindset and not just the manpower. It is not about working longer hours, but it is about designing a smarter, guest-centric operation that anticipates the needs before they arise. Because unless you're able to anticipate the guest need and you're able to attack that need beforehand, there is no way that you'll be able to be a step ahead and ensure, that kind of experience for the guest. Like I said, specifically in a fast-growing business district like Ahmedabad, the guest journeys do not follow those traditional timelines. The guest arrives at 3 a.m., grabs a quick nap, then he's into meetings throughout the day, and then he might host a dinner in one of our popular restaurants, and then he might want to use a wellness facility at maybe 11 in the night. So our responsibility then becomes to make the experience seamless, regardless of the hour, the guest or the guest arrival, guest departure, regardless of it, the experience has to be seamless. So the only thing that we can do is to map out the guest experience and then to build an ecosystem where responsiveness is embedded into the culture. Because unless it is part of the culture, it is not going to happen. You cannot force it every day. So, as far as I feel, there are three important pillars that this whole thing works on. The first is anticipation, like I said, anticipating the guest need, which is now we have so much of technology available, there's so much of intelligence available that we understand the guest journey. We know the preferences of a repeat guest, we know their patterns. So the service does not really have to begin at check-in, it begins way before that so that, we can ensure that everything's in place. The second most important pillar we feel is the empowerment of the teams. Because if the team is empowered in a round the clock kind of an environment, decisions cannot wait. They can't wait, okay, it has to climb this hierarchy, then the decision will come. The team has to be empowered and the team has to be trained to resolve situations at the moment with confidence and with ownership. Because only when you empower the person down the line, that is when he takes ownership. The third most important pillar we feel is fluidness of our operations, aligning the departments so that whether a guest needs a late night meal, an early morning boardroom, or wellness services at an odd hour, the experience has to be seamless rather than exceptional. It shouldn't be, people shouldn't be struggling. It should just happen seamlessly. So understanding these micro moments helps us to allocate the resources intelligently. Once we have allocated our resources, then the core services are consistently available. Concierge support, dining facilities, business services, digital assistance, all these should be available because availability is what matters as much as the quality. So now our night teams are not just skeletal operations. In fact, a lot of us now have started moving towards cross-trained associates so that, even at night time when you have non-peak hours and your teams are skeletal, you can make sure that you can allocate your resources which are cross-trained and make sure that there's consistency, because I feel that consistency is the real marker of a luxury hospitality. Thank you. Mr. Wakharkar, we can't hear you.
Sorry about it. Well said, Akshay. I particularly found the 2 a.m. syndrome bit extremely pertinent. All of us, I'm sure, at some point of our career, we worked in night shifts. And my personal experience say that if everything is fine at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. rather, then I think it's a very well-oiled operation. Thank you very much. Pranay, over to you. You left Hyderabad and you left your own legacy and big shoes to fill in for all of us here. Congratulations when you move, first and foremost.
Thank you.
So the question to you is, from an area leadership lens, what operational pressures increase most in always active city hotels?
Right. You'll be the best person to respond to this. You've been doing this for a longer time, I guess. But I have to confess, first of all, thank you, Shrikant and Bhuvanesh, for this call. I have to confess, having moved away from active GM role 2 years back, I missed the thrill and always on approach that you guys are talking about. But that stays in spirit with us always, because the restlessness to respond and get things done continues to stay with you as you move, even if you move away from the hotel. But from an area leadership perspective, I think the foremost priority is to strike the right balance, and balance between service excellence, financial performance, and I think brand consistency across diverse teams and operating environments. That will continue to be our priority. And as hoteliers, we know guest satisfaction remains the cornerstone of our business, and delivering it consistently requires seamless execution and operational precision. And we have to work like a machine, right? Especially in a high turnaround environment where there is high traffic, the entire machine has to work seamlessly, like well-oiled, someone said, well-oiled machine. And achieving this calls for, I think, continuous investment in high caliber talent. And without strong leadership, I think we are absolutely nothing. So I would say achieving this calls for continued investment in high caliber talent and leadership, and obviously supported by great systems and architecture and processes that allows us to stay intact. So that's a very ideal environment. But what puts pressure, I think so, in today's environment is these external developments, right? The geopolitical situation, or if there is a disruption in a city, or if there is a sudden travel advisory that comes into play that can change demand patterns almost overnight. And we are seeing this today, obviously, because of West Asia conflict crisis. Cancellations and surges can happen almost simultaneously. And then teams have to, I think, across multiple hotels have to respond in real time to that situation. That pivoting immediately is a crucial aspect of our game. And we've learned this in COVID, and we've seen obviously some of the outlier events in last 3-4 years, border crisis, and the last year Indigo fiasco, and it continues to happen. So it has become part of our life today, in my opinion. That's where I think the area responsibility or the area leadership becomes even more critical. That quickly aligning teams, recalibrating your priorities, right, and ensuring that the guest experience remains intact and seamless despite the volatility that we may experience at the hotel. This, in my opinion, creates the inherent demand unpredictability, because you can be looking at a very strong forecast at this point, but you never know, a geopolitical event somewhere in the world can absolutely disrupt not only weeks, but I think future months as well. And you have to recalibrate, go back to your priorities, pivot as to what can be a short-term priority, and then respond to that, right? So that is, I think, external developments can genuinely put pressure on our business and our people at times too, right? Another constant pressure point, I think, is around the capability optimization or resource optimization, in my opinion. And especially in high urban, high growth, high activity urban environment, I think it is equally important as to how effectively the cluster operates, as effectively as the individual hotel team operates, right? Whether it's talent or budgets or operational strengths, I think area leadership is constantly looking at how we can deploy human capital across properties, right? So that every hotel performs strongly without operating in silos. That LPG situation is a classic example today of how we are coming together and responding and making sure that we have each other's back, right? Part of that is also developing our leaders. I think great organizations grow great leaders. There is without a doubt. And they build successful teams and successful hotels. And much of our learning, I'm sure you will resonate this. This will resonate with all of you. Much of our learning happens on the job. 70% of our learning happens on the job. Whether it's moving from one situation to another situation, whether it's conflict resolution, whether it is dealing with our people, coaching, counseling, and stuff like that. Everything is happening online. Sometimes we just need to step back and provide that perspective to our people in terms of leadership, in terms of targeted workshops and leadership development modules that our teams can grow and collaborate. Why it is so important in today's situation is, while we are responsible for every decision that gets made at the hotel, the decision eventually gets made at the hotel level. So you have to, just to provide that faster decision making, I think grooming, conditioning, and leadership development becomes extremely, extremely important to provide agility to our operations, especially in times when we need to pivot in terms of an outlier event or a geopolitical event. So I think if I have to summarize, I would say one, striking the right balance continues to be our priority. Driving agility, especially in an environment when external factors are not in your control. Building architecture and systems which can absolutely provide anti-fragility to our system so that we are able to pivot really quickly. And people don't feel stressed out when they are faced with a situation that may seem like they're entering an uncharted territory. So I would maybe sum up in that fashion. Thank you.
Great, Pranay. That's a very unique area perspective that you spoke about. Two good takeaways for me. One is that I'm happy to hear from you that disruption is now becoming more of a norm than an exception.
Correct.
And we need to be ready for any kind of an exigency. And most times those exigencies are, of course, beyond our control, but it's good that we need to be ready for those exigencies and be agile in responding to them. The other thing that stood out for me was the fact that you said that there are so many 70% of the things we are actually learning while we are at work. And that is something that absolutely resonates with me. I'm sure it will resonate with everybody else as well. So thank you for your thoughts. Let's move to Sharad. How are you doing in NCR and the ever busy NCR?
Thank you, Shrikant. Missing you.
Yeah, I miss being there too. So we talk about business district, and Greater Noida is one of the most important business district and a very fast growing business district in the country today. So business districts operate globally across different time zones. So how do you ensure guest readiness at any given hour in a hotel like yours?
Thank you, Shrikant, for the question. And I think a lot of what you've asked me is probably has been already answered by my colleagues before me. So I will just probably touch upon the granular part. And in a place like Greater Noida, Shrikant, it's I think, in my opinion, Greater Noida sits at the intersection of one of the most internationally connected cities in India right now. So for me, to define what is an outlier is really a problem, because, at 3 a.m. for me is 3 p.m. actually for somebody else. The world is literally working round the clock. And to add to the complexity, Shrikant, is we're living in a Barney world now. It's extremely brittle, right? It's very anxious world. You've seen what's happening in Iran, and it's non-linear. It's your predictability is not there. You expect something, it does not proportion out to the results that you will see, right? And it's incomprehensible. It's the guests who are traveling here are affected by things which can completely reshape the industry or completely destroy the city. So as a hotel, what we do is, how do you remain aligned with the guest? And I think in my experience, Shrikant, what I've seen is the hotels that I've been to, or the hotels that I know of, if they're not successful, I think their design philosophy in the hotel is based on a very generic guest behavior. This happens on a Sunday, this happens at midnight, this happens on a weekend. That's the kind of a perception that we have. And I think the world is extremely fast changing. And we realize this in Crowne Plaza Greater Noida. And what I have is, and I keep repeating this to my team, is a very dynamic capabilities framework that you have in the hotel, where you give a lot of freedom within the framework. You've got metrics, you've got compliances, but you give a lot of freedom to people to deploy the assets and the resources extremely fast to find out what needs to be done at what time. So the hotel is always ready. And there are three basically fundamental questions we ask at the hotel to define how are we ready every time, whether it's 3 a.m. in the morning or 3 p.m. in the afternoon. We need to find out what is it that we're getting ready for, who is the guest that we're getting ready for, and precisely at what time is the hotel getting ready at. And we follow a framework called JBTM, Jobs to be Done Matrix. Right? Just to give you an example, if somebody wants to buy a drill machine, you're not really buying a drill machine. You're buying a drill machine because you want to make a hole on the wall. And you want a hole on the wall because you want to hang your book cabinet there. And you want to hold that book cabinet on your wall because you want to make it more aesthetically pleasing, pleasant, and you want to organize the books in the right way so that whenever you need it, you find it. So I think people do not really buy a product or service in our hotels. They're hiring us rather to do a job. And if we understand as a hotel, what is this need, which can be functional, emotional, social need of that guest, if we understand that the need of the guest, I think the hotel becomes better equipped to tailor make things to a guest who is traveling in a Barney world. And what we do is we find out through various reports and data is you first get the insight, you sense, right? Through a lot of pre-arrival reports, your past data, you sense the data and what's building up. Because if you do not focus on this will convert into a problem later on. So we spend a lot of time trying to understand who is this guest who is coming to my restaurant or to the banquets or in my guest room, and what need does he have, the functional, emotional, and social need. Once we have identified that, we basically seize that opportunity through our protocols to effectively utilize and deploy everything that you have from talent, product, and processes to satisfy the need of that. I'm not going granular here, but just to give you a perspective what we do at the hotel. And finally, every time you deliver a result, Shrikant, we're also learning from the guest. So anything that we feel is working, we amplify it. You do more of this through rewards and recognition. Anything that is broken, we fix it quickly. We've got a problem tracker in place. It's a live document. Anything that doesn't work, it's fixed immediately. You don't need permissions to fix that. And anything that is defunct is taken out of the assembly line. It's not required at all. Anything that's redundant is not part of the process. And I think, in my opinion, Shrikant, most of the failures of not being able to serve and being relevant 24/7 is when the stakes are very high and we have an assumption of this being a non-peak hour. That's where most of the failures happen in the hotel. And for me at the hotel that's the operational readiness benchmark. If you're ready, if you're able to delight a guest at 3 a.m. in the morning, by 3 p.m. in the afternoon, you definitely have a loyal guest with you. So 24/7 for me, Shrikant, is not a schedule. I think in the world that we live, I think it's a commitment, and commitment and promises are not time bound. They're just churning all the time. So that's how we remain relevant and 24/7 at Crowne Plaza here in Greater Noida, Shrikant.
Wow, very well said. I think two things that really struck a chord with me was about what you said as giving the freedom to all your colleagues to operate within the defined frameworks, so they know that they have a lot of elbow space to take decisions and to ensure that the operations go on smooth. And the next thing, which was absolutely very important, is the unexpressed need of the guest, which needs to be understood and anticipated. Great words there. Thank you so much, Sharad.
Thank you, Shrikant.
Jitin, let's go to you in lovely Goa. All of us are from urban destinations otherwise. So the question for you is, leisure destinations are increasingly functioning like urban hotels. How do you sustain energy levels in teams handling continuous guest interaction? Because today there is very little difference between service offerings and service excellence between leisure and business and urban hotels.
No, first of all, thank you very much, Mr. Shrikant, Mr. Khanna. It's a privilege to be part of the BW GM show. I would say the leisure destinations have evolved in last 15 to 20 years. Whether case in point would be Goa, Rajasthan, within Rajasthan, Jaipur, Jodhpur. Uh, Earlier, it was more of a FIT, leisure, domestic, international, and in last 10 to 15 years, it has become a MICE destination, whether it's a corporate offsites or wedding destinations. So Goa, I've worked in Goa for a pretty long time. I can give you example. Earlier, Goa was more about charters, leisure, and in 10 to 15 years, you must have seen there has been a huge shift over in terms of the change in the clientele. A lot of big company offsites or wedding, Goa has become a wedding destination. So things have changed. I think in this entire bargain, I would say, the leisure destination, earlier it was more of a off season and an on season. But in today's time, there is no on season, off season. Even months like April, Q2 and Q3, it's absolutely a season time. You have a lot of more of corporate movement, lot of weddings, lot of offsites. I think in this, we need to really ensure that our teams are completely aligned. We have to really take care of our associates, and it's said, happy associates make happy guests. So there are a lot of things we need to do it at the hotel level. We are doing, especially at the leisure hotels, like team rotation, giving proper break shifts. We have seen, we're all millennials. We have seen how we used to work earlier, 14, 15 hours. Today's time, our rank and file comprises of Gen Zs. How we able to handle our teams? They want proper work-life balance. 9 hours means 9 hours. Within 9 hours, they will expect a proper lunch break or a tea break. I think we need to, as a fraternity, at a leadership level, we need to change our mindset, because today's time we have a lot of big box hotels, whether it's luxury hotels, mid-scale, upscale. We have a hardware, but hardware is incomplete without a software, and the software is our associates. So we need to work out a lot of things, giving proper weekly offs. A lot of international brands, a lot of domestic brands from a earlier traditional 4 offs, they have moved into 6 offs and 8 offs also, without changing their leave pattern. Their privilege leaves, their sick leaves remains the same. So I would say, I think that there has to be a consensus in our at the leadership level. If we really want to sustain, if the hospitality, the way it has been growing in the industry, in as part of 10 to 12% of India's GDP is comprises of the hospitality, which includes restaurants, hotels, tourism. I think we need to, it's our responsibility to ensure our team members are well taken care of. Few things, what we do at Hilton, it's like, it's a okay policy. And I think many other hotels or brands, they do it. You can leave early, you can come little late. If you have missed your lunch, there's a busy banquet event or the restaurant is busy, you can order through room service. You can order through room service and go to the cafeteria, have your meal. We do not want people to go hungry. Hotels is all about food and beverage, and it will be so sad if our associate cannot have one meal. There's a lot of employees who have small kids. They leave their kids at home. They can bring their kids at work. So there are a lot of things we can do, maybe in terms of enhancing the recreational facilities, avoiding the long working hours, and especially we have noticed post-pandemic, there has been a very low enrollment. People do not aspire to join hotels. Earlier, I remember during our time, there used to be a entrance exam. There's a first list, second list. But today's time, the occupancy of IHMs is 30-35%. I think as an industry, as a fraternity, it's our commitment to ensure that if you really want to sustain for future, we really need to actually take care of our associates. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. So that brings us to the midpoint of the episode. And I'm going to take a short 25 to 30-second break and come back. But very valuable responses. Every speaker, if you put your ears to what they're saying, their perspectives total up to the complete message of this show, what it is meant to deliver. Thank you, Jitin. Very well said.
Just to add on,
Yeah.
just to add on to what Jitin said,
Yes. Yes.
I really like the fact that he mentioned that the leadership mindset has to change, and not the employee mindset. So that is something that really stood out. And Jitin, you spoke a lot about well-being and making sure that the newer crop of people who are now joining hotels, who come with very different set of expectations, and we need to basically embrace those expectations and live up to them at the same time. So I personally believe that I'm sure you have a HR director or manager at your hotel, but if there is a chief human resource officer, that's you. Well said.
All right. Thank you. So we'll come back. We'll take a 25-second break. Mudit.
At Diversey, we believe it is our mission to protect and care for people and their environment every day. Pioneering future-focused cleaning and hygiene solutions. Trust the experts to select the best hygiene technology matching your site's challenges and your sustainability vision. Diversey, your global partner for responsible hygiene solutions.
Thank you, Diversey. So we've had a wonderful first half. As we log into the second half and get going, I have some housekeeping rules. Our next set of responses are going to be within 2 minutes per speaker. All right, or make it 2.5, but no more, because we have to close at exactly 5 p.m. That's about 18 minutes from now. So let me ring in the second half with a question to Shrikant. Shrikant, perched on the high-level job that you have, managing a hotel and then the southern ecosystem of Hyatt, tell me, as hotels become permanently active ecosystems, what leadership priorities will define successful general managers over the next 5 years? You've been through it. You are seeing youngsters go through it, and you've seen them evolve. So your point of view will be extremely valuable and important.
Thank you, Bhuvanesh. Very pertinent question, especially in this ever-evolving day and age. I would say as we increasingly run non-stop, the endurance of talent, both physical and emotional, will become a strategic priority. Jitin dwelled a lot upon it when he spoke about it. Successful GMs will need to design work environments that sustain energy, that prevent burnout, and create meaningful career paths for their employees in this 24/7 industry. So building resilient teams will be a top priority going forward. The second thing I would talk about is experience consistency. With guests interacting across multiple touch points, digital, physical, remote, experience consistency will actually define brand trust and bring the brand to life. GMs will need to ensure that service standards are delivered seamlessly across shifts, across departments and platforms. So consistency will be important. And the last but not the least I would talk about is sustainable leadership model. The traditional always-on leadership style will no longer be sustainable in continuously operating hotels. Future-ready GMs will build leadership structures that distribute decision-making, empower department heads, and create strong second-in-commands. So that will actually, form a base of sustainable leadership and ensure that even when the GM is not present, things are running like a well-oiled machine.
Excellent. So let me do the convenient thing. Second time over, the baton is back to you.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Amar. So, Amardeep, what operational decisions taken behind the scene most directly influences guest satisfaction during high intensity operating days, on the busiest of days?
Just to start with, this particular question, the answer, we all can write a book on this one,
Yeah,
but I'll still try to wrap it up.
one
Um,
chapter is what we need.
Yeah, under 2 minutes to be more precise. Typically on a high intensity operating days, the operational decisions that most directly impact a guest satisfaction is how intelligently we deploy our resources. That I think is extremely important. And to start with, of course, staffing intelligence. You need to anticipate guest flows, arrival waves, event schedules, right team, etc. etc. Of course, the second biggest thing would be your real-time coordination. That's very critical. And somehow what could go wrong would definitely go wrong. Hence, you need to be very strong on your plan B. So, preventive planning is extremely important. These things have to be solved even before it becomes visible in front of any guest. And of course, the backbone, as I already said, communication. That's extremely important. What's going wrong? What's right? Where is it happening? Which part of the hotel? How have we salvaged that entire situation? That information sharing has to be very quick, very clear, and very precise. Ultimately, guest satisfaction during intense day, it's not accidental. Yeah, it's a result of I would say anticipation, alignment, and disciplined communication behind the scenes. And to sum up, in large hotels, complexity is inevitable, but the guest should never feel it. Our job is to turn operational intensity into a seamless experience. The guest should only experience our hospitality, never the complexity behind it. I hope I've been able to kind of encapsulate this as concisely possible.
No, no, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head when you said that guests should experience the hospitality and not the complexity. Very well said, and you really hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Amardeep. So, Akshay, the next question for you is how do you ensure warmth of service remains intact even when operational speed becomes very critical? How do you do the balancing act?
Thank you, Mr. Wakharkar. I think once again, this is something that is becoming more and more pertinent in modern day luxury hospitality, because there was a time when speed and warmth were seen as opposites, but actually in hospitality they both need to coexist. There was this very popular saying while we were growing up, which said that uh, moments are remembered long after the price is forgotten. Where we used to compare the experience to the price that we were charging for it. But I think the phrase that is gathering more and more momentum these days is that guests value efficiency, but they remember how they were made to feel. So, that's what I said, that both have to coexist, and it's becoming even more important these days, as you Gen Z coming with a different mindset, etc. So, especially at ITC Narmada, we are committed to crafting a bespoke luxury hospitality experience for guests that stays with them. So, in this, there are multiple things that have to work together. We have to leverage technology, but it has to work with the kind of training that we are giving to our service personnel. The processes have to be simple, and then, of course, there has to be an overall culture that I spoke about earlier, because leveraging technology can accelerate the service delivery, but the genuine guest engagement only happens through people. Personal greeting, remembering their preferences, meaningful conversations, these are some things that cannot be replaced, and this is something we need to keep reiterating with our teams. And to execute this, there are these certain values and moments of truth or moment of mindfulness that have to be inculcated in the staff right from the day that they're inducted into the system. And that's where emotional intelligence becomes extremely important. It has to be emphasized. We have to encourage our associates and leaders to read the guest, to read the room, and then only they can be a step ahead, instead of just following the process and the procedures. Next, very important thing is the simplicity of the processes. The more intuitive the system is, the more mental space our team will have to focus on the guest rather than the procedure. If the process is complicated, they're just looking at the process. They have no space in their mind to look at the guest. And that's why the operational efficiency should never overshadow the spirit of hospitality. So ultimately, to say, I think the real balance lies in ensuring that technology drives efficiency while people deliver the warmth. Operational speed should remove the friction for the guest. The efficiency, the technology, it should remove the friction for the guest, but it should never remove the human touch. I think that's what's more important. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think the first couple of lines really stayed with me when you said that everybody forgets the price, but they actually never forget how they felt. And that's the same even for staff, even especially in our industry, staff also, I would say, never forget the way they felt, whether they felt good, bad, humiliated, etc. So that's a very, very interesting perspective. Thank you. Pranay, in an always connected world, how should hotels rethink their response time as a competitive advantage? Pranay, you're on mute.
You're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry about that. No, let me start by saying no detail is too small to care about. And I think it applies to response time as well. Especially, so I'll try and keep it as simple as possible because we've got 2 minutes or so. I think in today's always on connected world, response time is like the new luxury. Like guests, if you look at guests, they're used to these instant replies everywhere, whether ordering a cab, whether ordering food, whether shopping online. And I think so naturally they expect when they interact with the hotel, they expect the same thing from our hotels as well. The speed at which we acknowledge and respond and the quality of response, I think, is crucial to form a brand perception. And I think the customers come back, the guests come back purely based on what was the response like and how quickly it was responded to, in my opinion. The other big piece of this is the digital responsiveness, right? Because obviously all customers are not calling you on your landline or sending you emails. They're connecting with you over social media or commenting on the post and writing Google reviews or maybe connecting with the hotel through brand apps. And let's be honest, if someone messages a hotel for a simple service on social media and gets a gets a response 3 days later, I think we've already lost that moment, right? So I think it's also about acknowledging the comment, whether it is a glowing comment or a little less flattering comment. Acknowledging it quickly shows that we are listening and we genuinely care about that comment. Right? That's crucial over our business. The other piece is communication in real time. I think in hospitality, things move really fast. Plane delays can happen, traffic conditions can change, city disruptions can happen at the same time. And how are we dealing with that? I think guest understands if we proactively respond to them. Silence is what kills this and creates more frustration in customers. And I think despite, even if there is an issue, if you're communicating with them in real time, they will genuinely appreciate that piece. A quick message or an update, can turn a potential issue into a moment of trust. So that's what I feel is very important. So while speed is important, I think it only works if teams are empowered. And I think some of our panelists today have touched upon that empowering teams piece. If every small guest requires 3 approvals, we lose the advantage, right? At the hotel. So when frontline staff has the authority to kind of make those decisions, resolve the customer issues, exceeding their expectations, it just shows them in terms of the brand, and they build the brand. And the last piece is, I think, operational alignment. That all operations need to come together, and I think Amar made this point earlier. It has to work like a seamless rhythm in terms of responding to a customer. It shouldn't feel like that, there's someone who's raised a feedback, shared a feedback, or communicated something with you, and you're making it very obvious that because you said this, we are doing this to you. I think it should be subtly delivered at the hotel level. I think Jitin touched upon, or maybe Sharad touched upon, the mindset piece, if I'm not wrong, earlier. And I think while technology can help accelerate our response to the customer, it's more to do with mindset that we have at the hotel, right? And I think the hotels that will stand out against the Comset or maybe the other hotels are someone who will combine speed, transparency, and maybe these empowered teams piece. Because faster decisions, faster response times sometimes can be most memorable, especially in terms of emergencies, right? That is crucial for a hotel, how quickly you're responding to an emergency at the hotel. So yeah.
Thank you, Akshay. Yes, it's absolutely important that the quality of the response and the speed both kind of, complement each other.
Pranav.
Sharad,
Thank you, Pranav.
Thank you, Bhuvanesh.
Yeah.
so Sharad, how do you protect or, build team morale when operational intensity becomes the daily norm rather than the exception?
Thank you, Shrikant. I think I'll borrow one of the words that you used in your opening statement in the second half, which was resilience. I think the magic word here, Shrikant, is resilience, right? The morale, in my opinion, my experience is it's a culmination of burnout coupled with disengagement that the employee starts showing towards the end, and you slowly lose your morale and the employee leaves, right? And in my experience, Shrikant, of more than 25 years across different countries, a few things stand out common, right? You can hire for skill. You can train our people for service, right, as per the brand standards and protocols. But there is no way you can manufacture resilience, right? And resilience is very culture driven, and I think it's a culture that's driven by the colleague, the employee, where they can see that the manager is there between me, which is the operational intensity, where the colleagues are continuously in the grind. As the business grows, the guests becoming more demanding and people are more aware, the operational intensity increases. And the manager or my leader is standing between me and the burnout and the operational intensity. And the idea is not to reduce the operational intensity. You need operational intensity. You need to drive business, right? The idea is, aim of the game is how do you minimize or eliminate burnout? And I think it's a very only the culture can sustain this. And a couple of things, since I have only 2 minutes given by Mr. Khanna, I'll quickly tell you. One is, I think the most morale protecting instrument, let me call this, in a hotel is empowerment. If your people are empowered to take a decision at 3 o'clock in the night or early in the morning or during a busy check-in and check-out, I think there is nothing that boosts their morale of having completed something, having solved a guest issue. I think the empowerment is the most dominant factor that really boosts an employee. The another thing is each employee, I think, is driven by certain motivation. And then there is a misalignment between the incentives that we give to our people and what he feels as constructive incentive. So our idea is, how do you remove the misalignment, the alignment gap between the expected versus the perceived value, what the employee is getting from the hotel? And you do that by monitoring and the incentive alignment and talks, and you do DCCs and all that. And the final thing, Shrikant, I would say, is visible leadership. You can't drive cultures by pep talks. You can't do this by sending a nice WhatsApp. You have to, as a leader, walk the talk. So if you are seen around, if the employee can see this, the manager or my leader is around and taking care of me, I think that's where the belief system starts developing. And burnout in hotels, Shrikant, all of us would agree, is it not really a result that's driven out of hard work. People are willing to do hard work. And I think it's because of feeling invisible while I get into that operational intensity that leads to burnout. And if you have this empowerment and a leadership that is visible, and if your incentives are aligned, I think it really boosts the morale of our people.
Thank you, Sharad. Which brings us to the last question of the evening, to Jitin. Jitin, looking ahead, what capability will distinguish tomorrow's successful City Hotels general manager?
So, thank you very much. I'll not take much time owing to the paucity of the time. I'll the last speaker. I'll make it very short and crisp. So, Mr. Shrikant, I would say, for a successful city hotel general manager, I think many of my senior co-panelists have highlighted those are the characteristics, but I'll sum it up. I would say in today's time, since we are living in a globalized economy, we have to be adaptable. We have to be adaptable. What happens, we are living in a VUCA world. It's a volatile, uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. So we need to be always ready. And I think the classic example is we all seen the COVID, the pandemic, which happened 4 5 years back, and quickly be able to turn around. So I would say it's a new normal. We have to be adaptable. We have to be commercially aware. If one set of business is not working, we should have a plan B. And I would say a plan C should also be available with us. And I think we briefly discussed about people. We talked about employees, associates, take good care of them. I think people leadership plays a very critical role. And last but not the least, we should be fully aware how to handle a crisis, the readiness, how we are able to do it. And the class example would be today's, the issue which is evolving about LPG and the fuel crisis owing to the conflict in West Asia. So I would say these are the characteristics. If the general manager in today's time will able to, emulate, I think he'll be very successful. Thank you very much.
This was as short and as crisp as it gets. But Shrikant, I'm worried. These guys are better speakers than many I've ever met.
As I told you in the beginning, we have a galaxy of superstars on the show today.
Oh, I'm actually telling you, I'm super impressed with each one of you, all of you. मतलब मैं कह रहा हूँ कि अगर मेरे को कल को अपना बेटन हैंड ओवर करना पड़े किसी को, तो मैं I'll pick one out of all you guys, or maybe 3 or 4 out of all you guys.
Point for
Now the
choice.
one left out will get another role, but I'm super impressed. This industry is in good hands. Back to you, Shrikant.
Okay, so today's discussion clearly shows how hospitality leadership is evolving. Amardeep highlighted orchestration within a very complex environment. Akshay spoke about responsiveness without losing warmth. Pranay brought scale and operational foresight into focus from an area lens. Sharad emphasized upon preparedness in global business hubs. And Jitin reminded us that sustained team energy is what drives guest satisfaction. What becomes evident out of the entire discussion is that the modern hotel is no longer defined by check-in and check-out. It is defined by continuity. And success in a 24/7 hotel depends on resilient leadership, empowered teams, and intelligent operations.
How well said, Shrikant. We both sat at the corner while each one of them spoke and presented their case. All in all, this is perhaps the best advertisement for this industry for wannabe hoteliers or wannabe general managers within your ranks. So good luck. We are in good hands. I'm quite happy with what I've seen today. And before I go away, thank you, Shrikant. And my sincere thanks to all of you for an insightful and extremely relevant and valuable discussion. This episode perfectly reflects our season 4 journey. Season 4 is opened with the strongest numbers of viewership as yet, and I request everyone watching to please share the show links within your professional networks so that these conversations reach every nook and corner of our industry, across groups, across various platforms. And my gratitude once again for Diversey for powering the GM show series season after season. You've put the money where your mouth is, and you've made it so valuable. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. While we shall see you at the next GM show in the next few minutes, as we continue exploring the future of hospitality leadership, let me thank Diversey with this parting video.
At Diversey, We believe it is our mission to protect and care for people and their environment every day. Pioneering future-focused cleaning and hygiene solutions. Trust the experts to select the best hygiene technology matching your site's challenges and your sustainability vision. Diversey, your global partner for responsible hygiene solutions.
And yes, a huge thank you to Team BW and BW Hotelier. While we churn out these shows one after the other, remember scheduling and getting these busy general managers together on one platform, 1 hour away from work is not easy. Like we said, they have a 24/7 job. They're always on general managers, right? In an always on industry, in an always on city. So it's tough. Thank you, team. And also stay inspired, stay connected, and support this industry, for this industry is going places. The action has not yet begun. Its due is yet. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you, Pranay. Thank you, Jitin, Akshay. Thank you, Sharad. And thank you, Amar. We shall see you soon back again. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and having you on the show.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Khanna. Thank
Absolute
you.
pleasure. Thank